Tonight,
if you're not happy here, then you can leave.
President Trump doubles down after the Speaker of the House announced a resolution condemning a presidential tweet.
Well, you know, the word racist is used about every Republican that's winning. Anytime a Republican is leading, they take out the R word.
What the Commander-in-Chief told us last year aboard Air Force One.
People come into our country illegally, and they go out legally.
This as the president prepares to change the asylum laws in the U.S., cracking down on the southern border.
But far too often, Jews and Jewish communities in America suffer outside the spotlight.
And with attacks on the rise, the Justice Department is unveiling a new effort to combat anti-Semitism. And we take a look at what the U.S. is doing to protect the homeland against a cyber attack. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Twitter fallout, the president's favorite form of communication, gets him in a whole lot of hot water. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Bratter. Tonight, President Trump is defending a tweet after a backlash from lawmakers and presidential candidates calling his words racist.
And also tonight, the Speaker of the House announcing a resolution to condemn the president's comments. CBS News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us from the halls of Congress with details on the fracas in Washington. Abigail?
That's right, John. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House plans to take up a resolution condemning what she refers to as President Trump's disgusting attacks against 4 of her Democrat colleagues, all of whom are women of color. This comes in response to Trump's tweets over the weekend calling the Congresswoman, quote, or telling the Congresswoman to, quote, go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came.
As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave.
In the tweets, President Trump called out, quote, progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe.
They're socialists, definitely. As to whether or not they're communists, I would think they might be. But this isn't what our country is about.
On Monday, the president made clear he was talking about these 4, known as the Squad, only one of whom was born outside the U.S., Representative Ilhan Omar, a Somali refugee.
When she talked about the World Trade Center being knocked down, some people, you remember the famous some people? These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country.
And President Trump is not fazed by those calling his comments racist.
It doesn't concern me because many people agree with me.
Democrats are firing back.
He relies on racism, division, and anti-immigrant sentiment to consolidate power because he does not have a positive vision for the future of America.
With Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sharing this message for the president.
It's time to move on from him, and it's time to move on from his conception of an America that we have tried to move past for a long time.
President Trump's ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, agreed with the president on some things.
We all know that AOC and this crowd are a bunch of communists. They hate Israel. They hate our own country.
But advised him to take it down a notch.
Aim higher. We don't need to know anything about them personally. Talk about their policy.
Representative Fred Upton agrees.
It's really uncalled for. Very, very disappointing.
Despite the criticism, Trump so far has just doubled down, saying the radical left congresswomen need to apologize to our country, the people of Israel, and the office of the president. Back to you, John and Jenna.
All right, Abigail Robertson on Capitol Hill, thank you. And with us now is Alan Cross, a Southern Baptist pastor and author of the book, When Heaven and Earth Collide, Racism, Southern Evangelicals, and the Better Way of Jesus. Pastor Cross, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you today. Thank you.
Pastor Cross, you were pretty unequivocal in your response, tweeting that the president's tweet is racist, nativist, and inconsistent with the gospel of Jesus Christ. What made you decide to put out that tweet?
Well, I mean, the things that he said in targeting people of color, a congresswoman of color, I don't agree with their politics either. I've never supported what they're saying as far as politically. But at the same time, when you're talking about American citizens, when you're talking about people born in the United States and saying, go back to where you came from, go back to your country, and all of them are non-white representatives, that does lead to us having a perspective that this is a racialized a comment. I don't know what he intended per se. I'm not saying that he was perhaps trying to make that specific point. I can't read his mind, but I can read the words that he said. And I think we have to come to the point where we say, there are things that we say that do take on racist connotations. And when you target people of color that are born in the United States and say, go back to where you came from, that is a problem. And that's something I think that the church should say, this isn't what we support.
Pastor Cross, we only have about 40 seconds left, but evangelicals largely support President Trump and his policies. For those who do, how should they respond?
Well, I think you can separate the things you support from the things that you don't support. That's what we're called to be as far as being salt and light and being prophetic. We can support certain policies. We can say thank you for the good things that you do. And sometimes when something happens that we disagree with, that we say this doesn't fit with our faith, then we ask you not to say those things. We ask you to correct. We ask you to repent. That's what the church does. We ask people to repent and to come in line with what Scripture says we should do.
All right, Pastor Cross, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much. We appreciate your insights today.
Thank you.
Well, earlier today on the 700 Club, CBN CEO and club co-host Gordon Robertson discussed today's climate of political polarization after a report on our exclusive interview with Senator Chris Coons and his effort to get Democrats to talk openly about their faith. Gordon referenced a Bible verse from Galatians about unity that we felt might be worth repeating here.
He's got a great message, and it's one I've been saying for years, that it's time for Christians in the Democratic Party to stand up. We need to change a verse from the Bible. There's neither Jew nor Greek, Democrat or Republican, but we're all one in Christ. How can we come together? Well, there's a wonderful place you can come together, and that is at the foot of the cross and at the communion table, and recognize we're all made in the image of God, and we're all dependent upon Him for everything.
And tonight, a stunning change for those seeking asylum in the United States.
The Trump administration wants to require migrants coming to the southern border to first apply elsewhere. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us to explain. Ben?
Well, John, agenda basically those headed to the U.S. to seek asylum that have to travel through Central America or Mexico would first need to seek asylum there. Only if their application is denied there would they then be allowed to seek asylum right here in the U.S.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
President Trump made the major announcement as part of his attempt to crack down on migrants coming to the southern border. In his statement, Department of Homeland Security Acting Secretary Kevin McAleenan said, ultimately today's action will reduce the overwhelming burdens of our domestic system caused by asylum seekers failing to seek urgent protection in the first available country. Economic migrants lacking a legitimate fear of persecution, and the transnational criminal organizations, traffickers and smugglers exploiting our system for profits. The president addressed this concern with CBN News aboard Air Force One back in October of last year.
The critics who say, look, you're just doing all of this for political, to gin up the base and everything. What's the answer to that?
Well, if I am, I've been doing it for a long time, because I've been on this issue for a long time, ever since you've known me.
Sure.
And now we have a chance to do something about it. The problem we have is we have no Democrat votes.
We have said that this is a manufactured crisis.
Democrats pushed back on this move to curb immigration. 2020 presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke calls this new policy inhumane. Not true, argued Attorney General William Barr, adding that the U.S. is a generous country but is being completely overwhelmed. Immigration courts are backlogged by more than 800,000 cases. In 2018, there were about 162,000 claims filed, and more than 13,000 were granted.
Education of deportation. Education of deportation.
This as migrant communities in the U.S. are on edge after talk of a major deportation of illegal immigrants. ICE is expected to target some 2,000 people in 10 cities this week.
People come into our country illegally, and they go out legally. Every person taken out had papers, and we had court orders.
Now, the rule is expected to go into effect on Tuesday. It does apply to children who cross the border alone. The new policy does include some exceptions. For example, victims of human trafficking. Now, the ACLU is vowing legal challenge. John, Jenna?
All right, Ben Kennedy for us at the White House. Thank you, Ben. And joining us now, Sagar Anjeti, Chief Washington Correspondent and host at The Hill TV, and CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. Both of you, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, David, everybody, a lot of people see President Trump and what he said, what he put out on Twitter differently, including many evangelicals. Some evangelicals and some of his base and conservatives don't have a problem with this kind of rhetoric.
Well, that was that was the flash poll I took on Twitter today, for what it's worth. They were all very much supportive of President Trump. Having said that, look, let's be honest, if we can for a moment, he stepped in it, right? I mean, he totally did. I mean, this was an unforced error, or some would say potentially a forced error, but it was an unforced error because he could have broadened it and said, he could have talked about not just those progressive Democratic congresswomen, but he could have talked about all of the liberals, kind of like what he did today. You know, that was a little bit different than what his original tweet was about, and that's part of the problem.
Sagar, you've been up close and personal covering this White House, the Trump White House. Do you believe President Trump is racist?
No, I don't. And, you know, as a person of color who has interacted with the man, I don't believe that he's racist. However, and I think, David, what you're getting at is that the president is a battering ram, is that he approaches these things in the bluntest possible way. If you saw in that explanation, what was he talking about? He was talking about Ilhan Omar's comments about 9/11. And we've seen her record of anti-Semitism. We've seen many of the things that she's talked about, including praise for Hamas and other terrorist organizations, equivocation on this nation and how great the United States is, especially given her past as a Somali refugee. I think that's a legitimate conversation. What the president did there was he said it in the bluntest possible language, not necessarily politically correct language. And I think it was a mistake, and it could be construed as offensive. But that is inherently what he's getting towards.
And part of that language, those words go back. You know, you just can't say that, right? I mean, universally, that is accepted as racist language. No one's saying that President Trump is a racist. But in this case, that is considered racist language. And I think you have to make the distinction. Having said that, unforced error for sure.
David, what are people inside the White House saying? A lot of the people who are in his inner circle, who you're also plugged in with, what are they telling you anything? Well,
they're going to say the standard line, which has always been, look, this is an unconventional president. He speaks his mind. That's why the American people like him. So, you know, you're laughing.
I've heard it many times.
Many times. This is what they're going to say. And they have been consistent about that since day one. This will be of no difference. I think this is part of, and I hate to say it, but it's true. I think this is Fifth Avenue once again, you know. If he goes in the middle of a Fifth Avenue, can shoot someone, his supporters will say, okay, I think this is a Fifth Avenue thing. I don't think the polls are going to change at all.
We have 1 minute left. Maybe the both of you can comment, hopefully. David Axelrod, former senior advisor to President Trump, tweeted today that this was a calculated tweet to drive Democrats together to defend the four progressive congresswomen and essentially make them the symbol of the party. Do you agree?
I don't. I don't think he operates that way. I mean, he does certainly have a strategy. I think he felt he wanted to react to it. He wanted to plug himself in the conversation. The president views himself both as somebody who can drive the conversation, but more importantly, he views himself sometimes as an equal opportunity participant. That's why he sends much of these tweets. He's reacting and engaging with the news as much as driving the news. And it's that instinct that a lot of people don't understand about him.
Yeah, I think he's wrong and right here. Wrong because I agree with you, Sandra. But also, I think that the political ramifications from all of that, if he goes out on the campaign trail with the message he said today at this conference, which is if you hate America, leave the country, that reminds me of like Miley Cyrus and Rosie O'Donnell. You know, oh, you liberals, if you don't like it, leave. That resonates in the Rust Belt and many other places around the country.
We're going to have to continue the conversation later. David, Sagar, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Well, tomorrow, join us for an exclusive interview with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He will sit down with David and give us his take on religious freedom in America and the world right here on Faith Nation.
Coming up, the Justice Department tackles the fight to combat anti-Semitism as the attacks on Jewish people are on the rise across America.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
Is working to fight a rise in attacks on Jewish people across America. Today, bringing together members of the Trump administration with members of the Jewish community for a summit on combating anti-Semitism.
Of course, it is one thing for the nation to pull together in condemning anti-Semitism when confronted with front-page stories about horrific shootings, as in Pittsburgh and Poway. But far too often, Jews and Jewish communities in America suffer outside the spotlight. These attacks and others like them in communities across the country, sadly, are less well known outside the Jewish community. But they form the daily background of concerns about security and safety that many in the Jewish community feel.
And today's event included sessions on combating anti-Semitism while respecting the First Amendment, anti-Semitism on campus, and prosecuting hate crimes. And with that, Dr. Michael Brown is an author and radio host. He joins us now for more. Dr. Brown, thanks for being with us.
Sure thing. Glad to be with you.
Today, while speaking out on anti-Semitism, Attorney General Barr, he decried identity politics. Explain how they play a role in the rise of anti-Semitism that's being seen here in America.
Yeah, there's no question there's a massive rise of anti-Semitism in America, even among professing Christians. My Ask Dr. Brown YouTube channel is flooded on a daily basis with charges that, here, quote, all Jews are parasitic, subversive, and destructive creatures. So identity politics puts people into these groups. So you have the blacks, you have the Hispanics, you have the whites, and you have the Jews. And anti-Semitism plays on these exaggerated stereotypes, these false, libelous charges. And if you have one Jew who perhaps is on the wrong side of a social issue, then the Jews are all guilty. We're seeing this demonization of the Jewish people as a people. And yes, people have freedom of speech rights, but we need to confront, we need to expose, we need to catch this head on, because this type of stuff over the years does lead to Jewish bloodshed.
Dr. Brown, real quickly, speaking of freedom of speech, one topic the Justice Department tackled today was anti-Semitism on college campuses. Have you noticed a rise in anti-Semitism among young people?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've been fed a steady diet of the evil Jews suppressing the innocent Palestinians. The Jews are guilty of genocide. Israel's an apartheid state. And because many young people have a heart for justice because they side with the underdog, there's the demonizing of the Jewish people. There's the lack of memory about the Holocaust, lack of understanding about the miracle of modern Israel. So no question, it's documented. And then the leftist professors, they're almost in line to bash evil Israel. So it is a genuine issue of concern.
All right, Dr. Michael Brown, thank you for your time and insights. We'll be back right after the break.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family.
Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Welcome back. We've heard how the United States is using cyber attacks against Russia and Iran. While it can be an effective tool, it can also be used against us.
The FBI is busy retooling to meet the security challenge here at home. CBN National Securities correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with more on the depth of the problem and what one so-called cyber range is doing to help.
When the FBI was formed in 1908, there were no cyber crimes because there was no cyber. Only over the last decade has the Bureau taken the potential of cyber attacks seriously. And now, it's a game of catch-up. This is what a cyber attack looks like. A few keystrokes doing more damage than many physical crimes.
Today, it's really all about weaponizing very particular software with the specific goal of trying to extort money from you or take you out of business, just completely eliminate you.
Don Murdoch is with the Institute for Cybersecurity at Regent University in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Through real-life simulations on their cyber range, he trains people from military installations, Fortune 500 companies, and government agencies to become cyber defenders, those who can spot a cyber attack and stop it.
Once you understand how the computer systems work and how the networks work, then you can understand how to co-opt it or misuse it. And once you understand how to detect the difference, then you can learn what the attacker's doing, and then you can learn how to defend it and harden it and make it stronger.
Right now, the sheer number of cyber attacks is outpacing law enforcement's ability to investigate them.
We're probably 5 to 10 years behind in kind of stepping up to this challenge.
Arnold Bell spent 25 years at the FBI. Half of that time he worked in the cyber crimes division. When he joined the division, cybercrime was about 7 or 8 on the priority list. Now it's number 3, just behind terrorism and counterintelligence.
9/11 happens. The shift obviously changes the terrorism as it should, and there's a huge focus there. But what's happened now with all the different breaches that you read about every week, it seems like, that has raised the profile of this crime type.
A delayed response, however, means working overtime to update technology, recruit talent, and train agents to investigate cyber attacks.
And the challenges with the Bureau is that, they're competing with private sector, they're competing with all the other federal agencies, and the government pay structure doesn't compete well with private sectors.
They need highly specialized talent that does not grow on trees.
But it is developed in places like this.
When people come to train to be a cyber defender, they're actually using real systems, generating real data, real network traffic. It's not simulated, it's not some 2-station lab. It's 15 to 20 network segments and 80 operating systems working together that looks like a small to a medium-sized business.
Murdoch trains defenders to look for system compromises and how to trace them back to the source. a necessary skill for anyone investigating a breach. For the FBI, it's a growing problem with more than 300 identified cyber terror groups worldwide, many of them backed by foreign governments.
Trying to get action and trying to get intelligence and trying to get information out of some of these countries where we don't have really strong connections is a big challenge.
A big challenge for an agency that wasn't even established for this.
The law enforcement is kind of thinking people commit crimes. Well, today, your crimes really can be 25,000 or 50,000 computers that may or may not be owned by an individual. So, leveraging all those computers on behalf of one attacker, that's a much bigger problem.
Murdoch says while much of what he teaches is sophisticated, some of it is just good old common sense security. He calls spear phishing the most common form of attack, and it happens through emails. He says if people would simply be more skeptical of the links they click, that alone would drastically reduce the number of attacks. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
In ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
All right, well, call it mood lighting. That's what guests at a New York wedding reportedly thought it was this weekend when the lights went out mid-service.
This was during the city's massive blackout affecting some 72,000 Manhattan residents. The wedding was at the Plaza Hotel where the couple had to exchange vows in the dark with only candles. Still, it sounds like it was a good time, memorable to say the least. The couple and their guests reportedly made the most of the situation and danced the night away. No word on if they'll get some kind of discount or refund for the inconvenience. Jenna was saying earlier, I'm not sure if they need a discount or refund.
Well, apparently they also didn't have food because probably the refrigerator situation. So,
so they definitely had a good time.
They had a good time. It was beautiful.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.